The rocket engine serves as the heart of any space vehicle. Designing and operating an engine alone is no easy feat, but successfully igniting a multitude of rocket engines simultaneously is an even greater challenge. For SpaceX, since the development of Starship from prototypes SN8 to SN11, they've consistently encountered troublesome issues with the Raptor engines. This even persisted up to the first orbital launch of Ship 24 and Booster 7, where at least 8 engines experienced shutdown during ascent. However, in just a span of 4 months of testing and engine modifications, SpaceX has finally proven the reliability of a Super Heavy with 33 Raptor engines through the latest static fire test that recently took place. So, how did SpaceX master the Raptor problem? Stay tuned as we dive into this and more in today's episode of Alpha Tech. After traveling from the production site to the orbital launch mount on August 23rd, SpaceX executed a spin prime test on the Booster 9. Following this trial, SpaceX devoted a day to meticulous rocket inspections before proceeding with a static fire test. Finally, on August 25th, SpaceX promptly conducted a static fire test for Booster 9, engaging all 33 Raptor engines. The company had previously announced the event on X, allowing enthusiasts like us to observe it live. The Starbase team's preparing for the second Booster 9 static fire. Live views will begin a few minutes prior to ignition. We can notice SpaceX being more proactive in sharing every step of Starship's progress with the public. They seem particularly invested in image enhancement, showcasing diverse angles and professionalism. Additionally, they stream live videos of high quality. Therefore, we can anticipate receiving excellent views from them. Let's admire this comprehensive static fire test. It's truly stunning, with perfect scenes from top to bottom. Starting with the fueling of the massive Super Heavy first stage began an hour before the static fire and held at T-minus 40 seconds while fuel temperatures cooled to the proper levels, and once they hit that mark, the countdown resumed. The Fire X system designed to disperse gases started at T-minus 20 seconds, followed by the water deluge system initiating at T-minus 5 seconds. Booster 9 then hit its Raptor engines and performed a full-duration static fire of around 6 seconds before the engines shut down as planned. This marked the second static fire test for Booster 9 on the pad, and according to SpaceX's official announcement, Super Heavy Booster 9 static fire successfully lit all 33 Raptor engines, with all but 2 running for the full duration. Congratulations to the SpaceX team on this exciting milestone. Even Elon was enthusiastic about the success, expressing it by sharing a tweet on his page. Successful Starship Super Heavy Booster static fire. In this test, all 33 engines were ignited simultaneously for about 6 seconds. The engines burned with intense vigor, although 2 engines didn't complete the process. However, this didn't significantly dampen SpaceX's triumph. Booster 9 demonstrated remarkable progress compared to the previous test, where 4 engines shut down prematurely, and the burn duration was considerably shorter, just 3 seconds. This accomplishment truly deserves praise for SpaceX's effort. In just over 2 weeks, SpaceX managed to successfully address engine issues, enabling such impressive progress. And to be honest, the Super Heavy is perhaps the most complex component of the Starship rocket system, primarily due to the sheer number of rocket engines it employs. This, in turn, introduces a certain level of complexity when arranging these engines together. However, SpaceX remains confident that having numerous smaller engines is preferable to a smaller number of larger engines. For instance, if a rocket has only 3 engines and one of them malfunctions, you'd lose 33% of your thrust, and the rocket's mission might be compromised. On the other hand, if the rocket has 33 engines and one of them malfunctions, the loss of thrust would only be 3%, and the rocket could still achieve its orbit. Furthermore, for steering the rocket, it's convenient to be able to gimbal the rocket nozzles to redirect thrust slightly and impart rotational forces on it. You don't need to gimbal all the engines to do that. With small engines, the forces required to gimbal a couple of engines are fairly small, but if you have just one huge engine, then it's much harder. Having multiple engines also aids manufacturers in optimizing engine mass production and cost savings. If you have one large engine and you make 10 launches of the rocket per year, then you only need 10 engines a year. But that's not enough to warrant a mass production run, so they'll all be hand-built. But if you have 33 smaller engines and 10 launches, then you need 330 engines, and you can use mass production techniques to push down the price. Buying components in 100 plus quantities usually gets you a decent price break, and you can afford to automate some or all the manufacturing steps. Besides, for rockets capable of reusability like the Falcon series or Starship, then on the way up, it needs a lot of thrust because it's carrying a heck of a lot of fuel and the second stage rocket. But coming down, the booster's running on the last tiny dregs of fuel and is detached from the second stage. With a single large engine, booster can't descend low enough to decelerate without propelling the craft upward again. But if there are multiple smaller engines, booster can deactivate some of them and run the last engine at lower thrust, allowing more control even at very low thrust levels. Therefore, having a higher number of engines for SpaceX brings more benefits than challenges. This choice is a wise one made from the early days of SpaceX's rocket development. Certainly, with the outcome of this static fire test, a total of 31 engines successfully tested is an impressive feat. It's reminiscent of the number of engines tested in the final static fire of Booster 7 before its launch. Hence, it's also reasonable to anticipate that this could potentially be the final static fire test of Booster 9, with the next step being a wet dress rehearsal along with the complete stacking of Ship 25. Although not as dramatic as an actual launch, such wet dress rehearsals are essential to demonstrate the safe fueling capability for multiple propellant loads at once. This is a key remaining milestone before an orbital launch attempt can occur. Also, in this static fire test of Booster 9, we get a more perfect view of the ground system. Images of debris, soil, concrete fragments, and rebar around the launch stand were attributed to Booster 9's static fire test. But in reality, only a minority were from this event, with the majority pre-existing. This issue harkens back to the unsuccessful maiden test flight back in April when a lack of sound suppression systems led to significant damage, including concrete block breakage from the launch stand, resulting in debris falling miles around the South Texas Starbase location. About 4 weeks ago, SpaceX successfully tested a water deluge and deflection device newly installed under the Starship launch stand, which includes a cooling steel plate and a water deluge system. During the static fire test, both the ground systems and propellant handling systems operated as if it were a typical launch, following similar testing procedures as an actual flight. This opportunity ensures that both rocket and ground systems perform as intended. With the evident success of the test, the significant final hurdle between SpaceX and the second test flight of the Starship rocket is regulatory approval. The company must secure launch permission from the FAA, the agency currently reviewing the mishap investigation report submitted by SpaceX after the test flight in April. Upon acceptance or modification of this report, the FAA and SpaceX will determine corrective actions that the company has to undertake before the second test flight. This is to ensure the safety of humans, property, and wildlife in the vicinity of the South Texas launch site, surrounded by wetlands in the Gulf of Mexico. Hopefully, everything unfolds smoothly. We've been eagerly anticipating this event, and it's likely to happen in September. That's all for today's episode. We hope you enjoyed it and learned something new. Please let us know what you think in the comments below. Your feedback is very important to us and helps us make better videos for you. Thanks so much for watching, and see you next time.